Hello and welcome to Let's Review. Education. It's a fairly important part of growing up, and some people are willing to pay through the nose to make sure that their children get the best possible education. This can lead to a few oddities, our current government being a prime example. But I'm not here to get political, I'm here to talk about a video game. Black Closet comes from our old friends Hanako Games, makers of Princess Murder Simulator, Why Is Everyone in This Castle Such a Dick? And of course, are you sure this isn't based on Harry Potter? Regardless though, Black Closet has quite a bit in common with some of their previous games, but I'm going to start the same place I always do, with the gameplay. In Black Closet, your job is to manage a small group of students, referred to as your minions, whose job it is to keep a lid on all the strange things that keep happening at this school by means of investigation and, in certain cases, heavy-handed action.
This is the main gameplay screen of Black Closet. Now here you can see our 5 minions. Each of them has specific skills, so if we look at Althea, she has a rank of 49 in friendship, 20 in observation, 35 in aggression, and 10 in stealth. And you can see all of these people have different stats. So for example, Vonnet has a massive advantage in investigation because she has a skill of 74. Down here we actually have our items, and what these will do is boost our abilities. So for example, if I was to use both Theus and a baseball bat, she would have a combined aggressive score of 68, which is very high. Now, we currently have a number of quests on the go, or investigations rather. So for example, I can look at the log for this one, which says that St. Claudines will be hosting a sports meet on February the 20th. And someone will be throwing the discus. So we've just had a look to make sure there's anything dodgy going on. So yes, so we have had a second person take over at the sports meet. And it's on the 20th, which is today. So it seems logical to me to ensure that nothing goes wrong at the track. So I'm going to select the track, I'm going to select the guard ability, and I'm going to assign Theus to it. Now as you can see here, guard requires aggression and observation. And since I want to double down and be absolutely certain nothing happens, I'm also going to assign Vonnet, because I can assign more than one person to a single job. So if I do that, that means that they are both going to operate, and it doesn't combine stats, but it does take the best stat of those available. So it'll use Theus's extremely high aggression and Vonnet's extremely high observation skills. Now that was a mission that we've had going for a reasonable amount of time. This was one that we just picked up. So, Marquita and Dana have been circulating dark rumours about Marada, that she's secretly a witch plotting to curse or otherwise harm her classmates. Is she the victim of a whisper campaign or a danger to the school? Now, this is one that crops up moderately often, and as you can see, it gives you a little bit of information here. So these are the two gossips, and this is the girl who may be a goth. But as you can see, we don't know anything about their statistics here. The only way to find out is to interact with them in some way. So the safest way to do that is to select the question, because the question will never have any negative consequences. If you harass them or stalk them and you fail the check, it could have negative consequences. In fact, with harassment, even if you successfully pass it, if they're not guilty of anything, then that will have negative consequences. Specifically, you will lose council karma, which is a rating here, and school reputation, which is a rating here. These will steadily diminish as you play the game. Council karma basically requires you to not get caught doing anything too dodgy, so you'll lose karma if you harass people, for example. The school's reputation suffers if you fail to solve quests, or if you solve quests in a way that is, very, very dodgy and gets the school a bad rep. So some quests can only be dealt with by expelling students, and that will lose you a little bit of reputation, but it will lose you an awful lot less than you would if they successfully completed the thing. And obviously you don't want that, because if either of these drops to 0, you will lose the game. So, what I am going to do is I am going to question each of these people. Now, as you can see, Althea is pretty good at questioning, because that requires friendship and observation. Mallory's also pretty good at questioning, because again, friendship is observation. Now, Rowan's terrible at questioning, so we're almost certainly going to fail this roll. But that doesn't really matter, because as I say, questioning is basically safe, and at this point I'm primarily using it to find out their stats. However, since she has a very high stealth score, or a relatively high stealth score, I'm actually going to risk stalking the girl, which allows you to follow them and potentially gain some information. So, each of these comes up, and we have a dice roll. And because they had massive stats, they stand around waiting, and nothing happens, which is absolutely fine. That's what we wanted to happen, given that they were guarding the track during an event. So, Althea is going to question her, and that pairs up her social skill and her observation skill together, adds them plus a dice roll, and compares them against that. So we've successfully questioned her, and she's claimed that Marada has a bunch of voodoo doll pins in her room, which is obviously a bit of a dodgy thing for our school to have, reputation-wise. And we're questioning her, and she's almost certainly going to say the same thing. Yup. Meanwhile, we've stalked her, and that was... yes, that was successful. She doesn't seem to notice you following her around, but you do see her stop to meditate in the rose garden, so that allows us to potentially search the rose garden. Now, this is the successful end for that. With the sports meet went very well, and we've actually gained reputation from that. It's relatively rare that you gain reputation from an event, so you should always take absolute advantage of it when you get it. Now, we apparently solved that with a B rank, which is probably because we took a long time to do it, but given the practical nature of that quest, there's really no real way to solve it faster, which is one thing that's kind of annoying. The number of skill points you get given is based on your grade, so if you get a star rating, that's 5, and A is 3, B is 2, and so on and so forth. And somebody's knocking on my door. This is a scripted event, which you don't need to see, so I'm going to just skip past it. So yes, these scripted events crop up, reasonably often, and it's, it's a chance to interact with the characters. As I don't know what I'm saying here because it's not really important. Yes, but that will allow you to occasionally raise people's loyalty, because you can see these red bars on the side. That is their stress, and stress basically determines how much stuff they can do. When it maxes out, they need to take time off to recuperate, and if they don't do anything for a day, they de-stress. The higher their loyalty, the more they can do before they get totally stressed out and have to take a break. And you gain loyalty by talking to them in various story bits, like the one you just saw me spin through. So, I'm just going to demonstrate some of the items. So, for example, we have Marada's room, which we're going to search. We're going to send Rowan to do it. And we're also going to assign her a stethoscope, which will boost her perception. So that gives her a better chance of finding anything that's there. Meanwhile, I'm also going to demonstrate both the training room and the supply closet. So I'm going to send Vinay to the training room. Actually, no, I think I'm going to send Theus to the training room. Only one person can be sent to the training room at once. And I'm also going to send Althea to the supply closet. And the supply closet is where you acquire these items. Meanwhile, I've got this other quest going on, which is there's a secret society forming. Now, obviously, we need to be careful about secret societies because they could be very, very bad things, or they could be absolutely nothing that we need to worry about. So we're going to stalk these seniors. So I'm going to assign you, and I'm going to assign you. And they're both guaranteed because they've got high enough stealth scores, so we pass this on. So she's searching. This is actually a dual roll, whereby it checks the stealth score first, and if we fail that roll, we will lose karma, but we passed it. It's worth noting, if you are within 10 points on the dice rolls, then it will be a too close to call, and it'll do a secret hidden dice roll to decide whether you pass or fail. So in that case, we passed. And we have an observation chance of 50, and yes, we have succeeded. So we found a voodoo doll that's full of pins, and it was in plain sight. This is suspicious. So we now have more options to deal with Miranda. So we have 2 points remaining, and we can spend them however we like, so I'm going to boost her intimidation. It's wise as a general rule of thumb to spec up one particular stat on each person so they're particularly good at it, because that way you can team them up for more difficult quests. Then we've rummaged in the supply closet and found a magnifier. That is extremely useful because that's a plus 15 item, which is the highest you can get. Meanwhile, she's following her around, and this is guaranteed to succeed. She's spending a lot of time with Bet. We'll follow her around as well. And she's spending a lot of time with Raquel. And that's another new quest. And that's another story item, which will be held later. So yes, that's an extremely short-term quest, so it makes sense to guard the chapel. So I'll be doing that. But yes, fundamentally that's it. It's all about figuring out what the heck's going on, following the quest lines round, and just, solving them. So for example, I could now pull in... I now have options to deal with that, so I can question her again, which won't get me anywhere. I can harass her, I can stalk her, I can suspend her, expel her, or I can stick her in detention. So just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to stick her in detention, and I'm going to use Theus to do it, because she has a very high chance of pulling that off. And this is just for demonstration purposes, so I'm not doing anything else. But she sulked through the detention, which means that she's going to be a particularly tough nut to crack, and we actually lost karma for doing that. And, yeah. So we lost a reputation point because we didn't do anything about the Ash Wednesday celebration, and that's failed. But we still gained a point. So yes, so that's a good demonstration of what goes on. Further into it you go, the more missions you'll start picking up. Early on, you can clear them very, very quickly, and you won't end up with sort of 4 or 5 missions piled up like this. Once you get to the end game, you're going to start getting things piling up on you. But fundamentally, that is it for the gameplay.
The gameplay is pretty good for the most part. I like the stats-based ideas, and I like the fact that you can team multiple minions together in order to get past a particularly difficult skill check. It's an element that really makes sense. And I also quite like the fact that you can use items to prop up a particularly difficult skill check. All of this stuff works, and I do genuinely like the fact that it makes you think about how you're going to solve each investigation. With that said, there are a few that can be particularly frustrating if it feels like you've done everything you possibly can, and yet you still haven't got anywhere and you end up failing it at the end. That is most definitely frustrating. Although that could just be my brain being terrible at working out what I actually need to do. Overall, I'm not going to say the gameplay sells this game on its own, but it is a pretty damn solid component. In Black Closet, you take on the role of Elsa, the newly elected head of the Student Council, whose job it is to keep a lid on all the weird eccentricities of the school and to prevent scandals. And oh boy, are there a lot of those. Why exactly are the school's teachers not willing to simply let it go? Well, to be fair, I'm not talking about minor things here. I mean, some of them are certainly minor. They range from one of the girls might be a goth, through a self-harm club, right the way up to there's a gas leak under the school that may well cause the whole thing to explode. So the gasworks are something of a fixer-upper then? Oh yeah. I mean, dealing with this school's problems is like a game of whack-a-mole. Every time you deal with a student threatening with inappropriate artwork, you come across another one who's been tied up in a cupboard for the amusement of the older pupils. And so, while we're on that topic, there's a hell of a lot of lesbianism at this school. Well, love is an open door after all. To be fair, this is one thing that the school actually doesn't seem to mind, and it's genuinely nice to see relationships like this treated as perfectly normal and ordinary and not worth commenting on. It's actually entirely possible to strike up a relationship with one of your minions, although that could be phrased slightly better, especially since one of them is into BDSM. But honestly, that's actually presented in a way that's surprisingly sweet. So we have a positive view of a non-traditional relationship in this game. For the first time in forever. Okay, am I imagining this, or do you keep making Frozen references? Oh, you finally noticed. Yes, I am. But why would you... Oh no, this is because the main character's name's Elsa, isn't it? Frankly, it was far too good an opportunity to pass up. I hate you so much. Ah, but will you still hate me in summer? Shush! In addition to all your other problems, one of your minions is a traitor, and the identity of the traitor is actually randomly assigned, so you won't know who it is. This is actually one of the first major things you need to solve, and if you handle it well, that person can be redeemed. And if you handle it poorly, you can end up losing them. If you handle it really poorly, you can end up losing the entire game because, well, people suck. Well, reindeers are better than... Wait, did you give me that setup on purpose? Yeah, I did. For the most part, I like the story of Black Closet. It has its issues, but honestly the biggest problem I had with it is one that I fully intended to rant about significantly, and then the game went and solved it at the end. It plugged the plot hole very effectively in a way that not only made sense, but had also been foreshadowed. So way to take the wind out of my sails on that one. Would you say it gave you a frozen heart? It's the first song on the soundtrack. Really? Regardless, the story of Black Closet works. It has some funny moments, it has some sweet moments, it has some creepy moments, and yes, it has a few kinky moments. In all honesty, it works well together because it's been written with a lot of heart and a lot of charm, and overall, I'll be very happy to replay it a few times in order to see some of the different outcomes. Overall, the story is damn solid. The art is really rather good. The CGs are absolutely beautiful, and I do really like quite a few of the character sprites. I'm not going to say all of them, because some seem to be definitely of lower quality than the rest, but for the most part they're pretty good. The same actually goes for the backgrounds. They're all very stylized, but in a way that I do like, and some of them are actually really good, and some of them are a little bit less good. There's none that I would say are bad, but there are some that are definitely better than others, but that's only to be expected. Overall, I'm very happy to say that the art is pretty damn good. The music is fine. If I'm honest, it's a little bit generic, but at no point did it annoy me or anything like that. The same really goes for the sound effects, if I'm honest. There's nothing wrong with them, and I can't say anything bad about them, but there's also nothing particularly amazing that you're going to remember forever. Overall, especially given that there's no voice acting, I think I can comfortably say that the audio is functional, but nothing more. So, did I enjoy Black Closet? Yes, I did. Should you buy it? While I would definitely say this isn't my favourite Hanako Games game, I did definitely enjoy it. It's got some really nice moments, some really sweet bits, and overall, it's a fun, enjoyable experience. If you can pick it up in a sale, I would definitely recommend it. Now, if you'll excuse me... What the hell? Can you handle this? I think I can cope. Go. Cheers. Now, if you'll excuse us, it appears we have a visitor. We will see you later. Yeah, I'm coming.
Hi, well, this kind of might seem weird, but do you want a magical sword?